What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Dunk Talk podcast. Today, it's just me and Hunter, and we're just going to be talking about a basic topic, just about dunking, just yapping for 30 minutes. So, definitely want to do more of this. Just kind of talking about stuff, some filler episodes for y'all. Hopefully a lot of you can find value out of these. These will be like very specific to specific dunkers. So yeah, we're gonna do our best to cover this topic as good as possible. But again, my name's Dylan, 5'10", 16, 5'11", 16-year-old dunker. Keep messing that up from Minnesota. And I'm here with Hunter, obviously. So Hunter, introduce yourself, my boy.
Hey guys, I'm Hunter Castona, 6'1" dunker from Wisconsin. And like you said, we're gonna do some more filler episodes in the future. Still have some other people coming on the podcast pretty soon here, but um, definitely just want to get this as consistent as possible, just so we can have more topics and for you guys to just chime in and then just get different ideas popping out there. Just because again, we love talking about the dunking. Obviously, a lot of you guys like hearing about it. So if you guys do have any ideas, please let us know in the comments or DMs or whatever. Because again, we'll talk about basically whatever when we're doing these. We could talk for hours on end. So, um, but
Yeah.
yeah, so we're just gonna get into the topic today. So
Yeah. And just know we're not like out of ideas. We're not out of guests. Like we got some huge pros and stuff coming soon. It's just been difficult to schedule all of it since obviously all of us are getting busier as like school starts going again. So yeah. But anyway, today's topic is kind of hard to put into words or short words, I guess. But basically, we're just going to be talking about what we would do if we were assigned with coaching a kid basically from birth. So, obviously, if you're watching this video, you're not 1 years old you're not a 1 year old. Um, but if you're watching this video, that probably means that you want to jump higher. And if you are on the younger side, then this video is definitely for you because we're going to go into depth about what we did, what we should have done, what we could have done, and just everything about what we would have done from a young age. So I'll give a quick background about my dunking, um, just how it started. So obviously, I played basketball as a kid. I played a couple sports as a kid. Basketball was the main one, after like fourth grade. So obviously, love basketball. And the way I would practice for basketball was I would just literally go outside, mini ball, um, with a mini ball on a small hoop and just dunk, just have fun. And, this kept going, started seeing pro dunkers, and eventually got into having like actual lower rim sessions. I didn't really think that they would increase my vertical. I was just having fun, pretending to be my favorite NBA players, my favorite dunkers, all that. But obviously, eventually, that started to lead to massive vertical gains. So that's going to be a huge key point today. But yeah, around 13, started lifting, and then since then, I've been on and off lifting. And then this year, I really took it serious and I was just, yeah, again, training the entire year to jump higher. And that's when I saw the most gains was this year. So, yeah, I know Hunter's situation is pretty similar, but I'll let him speak for himself.
yeah, so obviously, like you said, it's pretty similar. But growing up, I played basketball, baseball, football. So I played all three of those sports, all the seasons at once. I think until like seventh grade or something, maybe sixth or seventh grade. And then I quit baseball because I wanted to do more AAU and stuff like that. So at the time I was only doing baseball and basketball and football. And then my freshman year of high school, I also quit football, so I just focused on basketball. So, and then to go along with the dunking side of things is that I um, was just being a kid, and I was just trying to have fun with my friends. On a low rim, we would dunk on it. We would play 1v1s. We would basically do whatever. And I mean, I had you guys probably have seen a lot of Hooping Nate videos when he was really young with his door hoop. Played on that a lot. And then I had it's like I'll explain it. It's kind of like in between a door hoop and a portable hoop that you have outside. It's kind of like in between that. So like it was like a skills hoop or whatever. Had one of those in my basement when I was unfinished, so I was dunking and shooting and stuff all on that a lot. And and yeah, and then obviously being a basketball player, you always want to be able to dunk. That's just kind of what basketball players like to think is that they are able to dunk and they want to be able to dunk. So in practices, I would always try to dunk, even if I wasn't like close. Definitely was not consistent enough to do it. But again, I just wanted to be able to dunk, so I just kept trying. And then I got into some lifting, like functional training, nothing like Olympic lifts or anything that are heavyweight training. There's a lot of balance stuff, a lot of plyometrics, um, a lot of stuff like that. So, and then got into Olympic lifting about 2 years ago. And that was when I started THP. That's when I saw insane gains in my vertical. But it's also because I've never did Olympic lifting before, so I adapted very, very well because again, I've never done that type of stimulus of training. Um, so yeah, and then I've been just doing that basically ever since. Been dunking consistently for that long for about 2 years now. Had like occasional sessions before that, but really started taking it serious and took basketball out fully 2 years ago. So, but
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, I think the first thing that we'll start on and then just kind of build off that obviously is just like what we would do. Like what is something that we'd tell someone if they just asked us like what we would do at their age right now. So for example, we'll just give an age range from like 9 to 13. I think obviously the earlier you can start for a lot of these things is going to be better, but I do think that I would wait a little bit on something. So the first thing that I always tell people is just start having sessions. Like you want to make sure that you're having fun with it no matter what it is. Specifically dunking though, like if you're just go right into dunking and you just start training super hard, trying to like, go super hard in the weight room, like that's not even the most important thing in most cases. Obviously, for like me and Hunter now, like that is the most important thing because we've already had so much lower rim reps and stuff like that. But if you are just starting as a dunker, the biggest thing you want to do is just lower him, lower him, lower him, get jumps in, work on your jump technique. And so, yeah, I'd say the biggest thing is learn jump technique and learn dunk technique if you want to be a dunker. If you want to get your first dunk, I'd say dunk technique is a little bit less important, but there's really no reason to be like trying to dunk on 10 feet every week if you're not even close. Like you're probably going to find more value out of dunking on low rims anyway. But that's just my opinion.
yeah, I mean, I obviously agree with that. Um, Again, like you said, jump technique is going to be a lot more important than dunk technique. Obviously, goals play a big factor into that, but most of the time, if you're that young, you're not thinking about being a pro dunker. You're thinking about being an NBA player. That's just how it is. I mean, maybe you're at this age where you're seeing a lot more dunking stuff, which is awesome. If that is the case, and that you want to be a pro dunker, or that you are trying to just pursue to do a lot of the tricks that you see on social media, but for majority of people, it's like you just want to be able to dunk. So um, I would say definitely focus on the jump technique for sure. The better your jump technique is, obviously, the better you're gonna jump. So that's like the number one thing, and then consistently jump is probably another thing I would say. Um, but another thing I would say is as well as when you're a kid, just go do stuff. Play the sports. Play as many sports as you can, that different varieties of sport, because that's going to get your chances up to be as athletic as possible. Because if you are able to do more sports, then you just have different attributes for everything, and that's just going to make you a better overall athlete. So I would say just go out and do stuff if you're able to. Um, and then again, have sessions, consistently jump. Um, and obviously just have fun with it. Like you don't need to take it, you need to treat it like a job or another sport if you don't want to. You can treat it as just having fun. But obviously, like on me and Dylan's level now, is we're taking it very, very seriously. We're training 6 days out of the week basically. And it's very tolling on the body. So but that's also with the lifting that we do. So if you're being a kid, I mean, you could withstand a lot of um, jumping. So I would say maybe not jump every day, but jump I'd say at least 3 times a day if you're that young, because um
3 times a week.
you're just
But yeah.
yeah, three times a week, sorry. Um, just because again you're able to withstand that, and you're not fully developed yet. So, but the biggest thing is just the more you do it, the better you're gonna get at it. So, and I honestly think it's one of the funnest things to do, just because again you're putting your creative mind into it, and then you can also see progression with dunking very easily, while as another sport it's kind of hard, just because there's other outliers, coaches, teammates, refs, stuff like that. While as this is like, um, you can make a new dunk on a new rim height, and then next week you can do it on another new rim height and stuff like that. So you can always see progression very, very easily with dunking, and there's always something new to do. Always something new to do. No matter who you are, there's always something that you can do to better yourself and also to try. So that's the thing that I like about it, is just because you get to try a bunch of things, and then if you try more movements like that, you're able to do these more technical dunks as well. So you see a lot of Dylan stuff. He's doing hide and seeks and um, lost and founds, kamikaze, stuff like that, and or very very fast transfers or double transfers, like a double East Bay behind the back or something. And the reason why he's able to do those things so well is because he's done the basics that well, and he's done it a million times. So he's able to do these more advanced things because he's done it for a long period of time now. And that's the, I won't say it's easy for him, but it's obviously easy enough that he can start doing double transfers and stuff like that. So the better you get at it, the more advanced stuff that you can start getting into. And like I said, it's just have fun with it, but overall, just be consistent. Um, because you're only going to see gains if you be consistent. And in my journey, I'm guessing Dylan has too. If you are jumping that consistently, you're probably going to see your vert go up just
Yeah.
by low rimming, because
Especially as a
again,
kid. Like
yeah,
now if we did that, like it would start to decline after a couple weeks, but like especially when I was a kid, I don't think I remember a time where I like jumped for a week and the next week I was like, "Oh, I'm jumping low." Like it felt like I was always either stagnant or going up. Like I don't think I ever got worse when I was a kid, unless I was like dealing with an injury or the court conditions were terrible or something. Like I rarely got worse as a kid unless I was not consistent, but I was just generally consistent because I loved it so much. But yeah, I really like what you said about playing sports as a kid. Like one guy we know, his name is Jonathan Edwards. Like he played soccer as a kid, and I'm pretty sure that he like thinks that that was like one of the huge reasons of why he's so good because like the footwork of it. Even if it's not like super sports specific to dunking, like learning those movements and learning those motor patterns as a young kid is so beneficial. And that's why like at my age right now, I'm like, do I keep playing basketball or do I stop? Like what is going to be better overall for my career? But like if I could go back to like fourth grade, I wouldn't say like, oh, I'm not going to play basketball. I'm just going to dunk because of basketball. That's one of the main reasons why I'm so good is because or just like why I'm generally like naturally gifted at dunking, I'll say. Like most of the best dunkers that you see played basketball as a kid. Isaiah Kilgannon, Jordan Sarlin, Smooth, basically any dude that you know play basketball. There are very few that didn't. Donovan is a huge outlier in that case. But again, he low rimmed a lot as a kid, so that generally explains it. Yeah, I'd say like doing basketball as a kid is one of like the best things that you can do. I'm not saying that it's impossible to like not be good if you didn't play basketball, because obviously we've seen it, Donovan Hawkins. But if you're playing basketball and you're considering quitting for dunking, I would say unless you are like constantly getting hurt and you really love dunking, then there's no reason to stop playing until like maybe high school you can stop. But like it helps you so much with like the footwork and everything. Like once you get into more like advanced basketball training, like they literally use terms like left, right, right, left when you're going into like certain shots and whatever. And so like you can learn a lot just by playing basketball. That's why we see like guys start dunking like in college just because they play basketball and they have a decent strength foundation. So I would say that playing basketball and low rimming is going to be the best combination as a kid, but I do think that playing basketball is a huge role for the average dunker. But again, it's not completely necessary, but it can definitely help a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you look at guys like we obviously just had one that didn't play basketball, Jay Smoove. He was a swimmer his entire life, like up until like he's 19 years old. He started playing basketball at 19. He's like 27 or 26 now, and he's a phenomenal dunker. He has a lot of power, and he's extremely strong. But he was a swimmer. He never played basketball or anything. He that was his main sport. And then you have a guy like Travis Slade, from the Utah Dunkers. He was a soccer player as well. And you look at his jump technique, and he has a very, very, very aggressive penultimate step, very, very long penultimate step. But again, that's probably was because of the soccer that he played. Um, and obviously, like he said, Killer John, he said that soccer was one of the most beneficial things, and um, with the footwork and everything and that, so that makes sense that Travis is that good at it with the penultimate step. Um, but again, I mean, you don't have to decide if you're a young kid right now, like with the age range that we just stated, listening to this, you do not have to quit your sports to go be a professional dunker. Still be a kid.
Yeah.
Like there's no reason that you need to quit everything right now just to focus on that, because you're still young enough that you can develop over time still. You're not done developing. So I would say keep doing the sports you're doing, but also keep up with the jump technique, keep up with the dunking, low rimming and stuff like that, and challenge yourself in the when you're dunking as well. Don't just go outside and go on a 7.5 rim every single time and do the craziest dunks or your best dunks or whatever. Obviously, that's really fun to do. But challenge yourself a little bit. Try raising the rim up, or if you're starting to almost get your first dunk, or like you're starting to touch net, starting to touch backboard, starting to touch rim, whatever it is, go on a low rim and get reps in on a rim that you can dunk probably, let's say, 3 to 4 times out of 10. And then once that gets to like 6, 7, 8, then you raise the rim, and then you keep going, and eventually you're going to get to a 10-foot rim or close to 10-foot rim, and you're going to be dunking very well because you know the um, technique of how to actually dunk a ball on 10 feet when you're like barely getting the ball over the rim. Because like I said, it's all about reps. I mean, just getting that muscle memory down too is going to be the biggest thing as well. But I'd say definitely do that as well, just because that can help really well, and then also that can be a very good what is it called, measurement of how your progression is going. Because if you're at like say 9.6 and you got like 3 or 4, and then in 2 weeks you're at 8 or 9, and then now you go to 9.8, and then you're back to the 3.4 again. I mean, that's that's progress right there. So um, yeah, I would say unless you absolutely have a need that you need to quit your sports and just focus on the dunking aspect, I would say just keep doing what you're doing. Um, because again, just be a kid. I mean,
Yeah.
you have a whole life ahead of you for the dunking. Like you see a bunch of these guys. I mean, we just saw a huge contest, and there's a guy named Chen from China, and he's 39, and he's still dunking very, very good. And you have Jordan that's at his peak, and he's at like what I think he's what 32 or something, 33.
32, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So you have these guys that are in their 30s, and they're almost better than they were when they're in their 20s. And they've been doing this for a while, but you have a whole life ahead of you to be a good dunker. But just be a kid right now and enjoy it, and just play as many sports as you can. It doesn't have to be like you have to be on the team, but if your friends go ask you to play soccer or baseball or whatever it is, go do it. Because again, um, you're just gonna get that athletic background from that, and that's just only gonna help you even
Yeah.
more. So
Yeah. And again, like not saying that these are gonna like necessarily increase your vertical. Like I know John did a podcast about it actually where he's talking about like, swimming is like not close to dunking at all when you go on like the spectrum of specificity or whatever. So like not saying that these things are necessarily going to increase your vertical, but most of them are not going to hurt your vertical. So again, if you want to be a good dunker, there's like you can't just like go out and just play sports and just have it like fun all the time. Like you do have to dunk, but at the same time, like again, you have time. So definitely dunk, definitely low rim, and just have fun with it. But yeah, you don't have to take it too seriously. And also a huge thing that I guess I learned it pretty early because basically my when I was dunking as a kid, like I kind of went through puberty like right when I started dunking basically. But like my brother, for example, my brother's a bit younger than me, 2 years younger than me, and he's like 5'6", and at his age, I think I was like 5'9". So like just know that like everyone goes through puberty at different times and everyone like matures physically differently. And like once you hit puberty, your vert goes up like 5 inches, like without you doing anything. Like that's why like that was a huge part of why I was like improving so fast is just because once you start maturing physically like that, like it starts getting a lot better very fast. So yeah, just keep your eyes out for that. Like just know that it'll come eventually. And when it does, like you can train a lot harder and you can get a lot better very fast. So that's one of the most fun periods you can have. Yeah, I think another thing that we definitely got to cover is like lifting. I know you kind of talked about your lifting background a little bit. I kind of talked about my lifting background a little bit, but I will say I kind of learned the technique for most lifts, like power cleans and squats and stuff like that, when I was pretty young. I want to say like 13, maybe 12-ish. But I think I'll just give my personal opinion just to start off. I do think that you should learn, just like dunk technique, I think you should learn specifically Olympic lifting technique, but also just, lifting technique in general as young as possible. Not saying that you should go out and load 205 on back squat at 12 years old, but yeah. Was I a Frozen Hunter?
No, you're good.
Okay, my MacBook's tweaking, but yeah, I think that you should definitely learn the technique for it as young as possible. But I don't really, again, I'm not like qualified to speak on like when you should start officially lifting, but I'd say like 13 is a pretty good age. By the time you hit 14, you should definitely be good. So make sure to learn the technique for both dunking and lifting when you're, decently young age.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. I would say you don't need to necessarily lift heavy when you're young. I would say learn the basic movements first. So squatting, lunges, power clean, um, I mean deadlift. I mean you could, but I mean I don't
You
personally
might as
do the.
well.
I mean might as well
Deadlift, hip
because
thrust,
yeah,
stuff like that.
just learn stuff early on, but don't load it heavy. Get the technique down
Yeah.
first, like
Even if I was a
and
kid, I would learn like snatches and stuff. Just like everything you can learn. Just have fun with
yeah,
random stuff.
yeah. I mean, I since I because I didn't do any Olympic lifting. I mean, I did it occasionally in high school. Like I had a class that I like learned a bunch of stuff, but again, the teacher had so many kids in there, so you can't just focus on you every single day. So it's kind of hard to learn everything while trying to actually lift heavy as well, because obviously you have like classmates or teammates that you try to like get on their level with. So sometimes you would go too heavy for your own good, and then your technique would just plummet. So it took me when I started THP because I didn't do power cleans for a couple of years. It took me like 9 months just to go up in weight because I was getting stronger throughout that time, but my technique wasn't getting better. So I was only pulling like 135 every time, maybe 155 if I got lucky. But then all of a sudden I started going lower in the weight and really focus on all the movements. And excuse me, I basically went from I think 135, 155 to 185 to 205 within like 3 or 4 months. Just because my technique got better. I was strong enough to pull the bar up, but my technique was so bad that I couldn't get under the bar, or that I was just using my whole upper body. I wasn't actually getting the thrust in there. I wasn't shrugging at all. So again, it's gonna take time, especially with something that complex with a power clean. That's gonna take time. It's not gonna be an overnight thing. But the earlier that you do these things, the easier it is when the time actually needs to come to um, lifting heavy. Um, but yeah, I would say kind of what Dylan said. I mean, I would say 13, 14, you could start lifting. But I wouldn't go like heavy, heavy yet because again, we're not like the most qualified to be talking about like when to do this. So I mean, you can take this with a grain of salt if you want. You can listen to us if you want, but um, again, I don't know the exact time frame that you need to start lifting heavy, or if there even really is a time frame. It might just be how your body's feeling. But um, I would say like 14 is probably a really good age. 13, I would say 13, 14 is probably a pretty good age to start getting
Yeah,
into
for sure.
the actual lifts and stuff like that. So
Yeah, for sure. I think another thing that I would recommend for everyone to do is record yourself. Um, you don't even have to post it. Like I don't care if you like go out and post your dunks or your lifts or whatever, but I do think that recording myself, when I started to do it and like not just record myself, but when I started recording myself and actually studying and like comparing my dunks and my lifts to the people in the field that were like actually good or like really good, like top, was super beneficial. So like recording my lower rim dunks, I mean, comparing them to guys like Kilgannon's dunks, Isaiah's dunks, whoever was like insane. Because once you start like really comparing and not just comparing like, oh, mine kind of looks like his, like looking at every single part of it, like how high did I pump here? Where's the transfer on that between the legs? Where's my hand? Where's my block foot? Where's my plant foot? Where is my penultimate? How fast am I going? How fast is he going? Like stuff like that, like all these things. There's so many things you can look at. And now again, jump technique is not going to be the same for every person. Like if you take the top five jumpers, all of them jump not like super differently, but they all jump differently. So I'm not saying that like you have to like be exactly like them. Like there's going to be some things that just work better for you because of like the way your body is like made up. But generally, you want to look at what the best are doing and try to mimic that as much as possible. Don't take what I just said and be like, okay, well, this feels good for me, even though it looks terrible and I can only jump 12 inches while doing it. Like there are some things that definitely feel good, but you just simply cannot be like very good at them while doing them. For example, like if I go on 7.5, like the easiest way for me to do it between the legs is to just do the entire thing on the floor, basically. That's not helpful because as soon as I go up to 10 feet and try that, I'm not even going to touch the net with the ball. So like there are certain things that might feel comfortable, but you're definitely going to want to incorporate, certain areas of each pro into your technique. Same thing for lifting. I would say definitely like I was fortunate enough to have like a coach, but I would say definitely watch like a lot of content, a lot of YouTube videos about Olympic lifting, learning the technique, and then obviously once you start doing it, record yourself and compare to those videos of the top people. So yeah, I wish I would have started doing that earlier.
yeah, I mean, kind of what Dylan was saying with the jump technique. You look at guys like, especially who I'm thinking of is Travis Dunks. He is nowhere near like not like bashing him for this because it works out for him, but you look at him versus like Kilgannon, they are two completely different jumpers because Jordan pushes really hard for his penultimate step, and Travis has a very very short penultimate step, but he still gets insanely high. He's still trying to do East Bay honey dips right now with his penultimate step. So stuff works for different people. So obviously, a really really short penultimate step works for Travis, but then that long penultimate step
Yeah,
works
it is
for
kind of just
Jordan. So
due to injuries, though. I think probably
yeah,
one of the craziest examples is Tom. If you guys watch Tom, like his jump technique is super, I don't know if it's like not conventional, but it's like very different, and he still jumps 49, I'm pretty sure. Pretty close to 50. Like he's had some very close to 50 flight times. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. Travis's is kind of because of injuries, but it's hard to tell. But yeah,
I
definitely
mean,
like,
even at that time, he's
I,
he's he's done it so
yeah.
much over time that it just
Yeah.
worked for him in the
But I would
end.
say
So
at the start, try to make your technique as close to like Kilgannon or Isaiah as possible.
yeah,
Um, or on the flip side, Donovan is another good example. T-Dub is basically a perfect example. But yeah, whatever works. Just don't like do just don't like purposely have bad technique just because it feels good because not perfect technique is going to feel good because it's probably what you've been doing your entire life. When I try to teach people good technique, like it doesn't come right away. It's going to take a long time. I mean, you could honestly get pretty good technique in a day, but it would take a while. And it depends for each person. Kind of like what we talked about earlier. If you're doing different sports and stuff like that, it'll probably come to you quicker because you just learn faster. So, yeah, but definitely model your technique off of those top guys.
Yeah, I got another quick thing to say is so upper body is not a definite correlation to jumping higher or dunking or anything like that, but it definitely helps because in my area, I never really did upper body. And then I started doing this calisthenic stuff and I started lifting upper body a little bit more. And I saw my dunking increase tremendously through power and through speed, um, especially through the calisthenic side because I was basically like, yeah, I was still dunking decently hard, but like once I started doing this stuff and actually like gaining muscle in my upper body, I started to feel a lot better and lifts started to feel a little bit easier, like power clean and then dunking just felt a whole lot better because I felt like my hand speed was getting faster through the different exercises and
Yeah.
movements that I was doing. So I would say I wouldn't focus on like upper body like the most obviously, but it definitely you can see benefits for sure. But like if you're maxing out bench, that's not going to help at all. Like that's just it's just if you want to get strong up your upper body, you can do that. But I would say shoulder stuff definitely works. I mean, what else? Obviously, back as well because if you're doing a lot of twists and stuff, you need to be have a strong back. And obviously, with dunking, you see a lot of dunkers have back problems. I've had it. Travis has had it. There's been plenty of others too.
Yeah.
Um, but it's I would say I honestly don't know if like getting really really big and your upper body would actually decrease your vertical at all. I don't really know,
Yeah.
but
Isaiah's talked
um,
about it. I mean,
yeah,
I think well, the one thing that I've heard a lot of people say is like, oh, you don't want to get too big for basketball or for jumping. I promise, like that to the average person listening to this, you're not going to get too big. Like maybe one out of a million people. If a million people watch this video that were all serious about training to jump higher, maybe like five of those million would actually get like too big. But it is so difficult to get too big. Like Tom is another example for this. Like Tom is huge. Tom lifts a ton of weight in literally every category, and he's still not too big. Like I don't really think being too big is really even possible unless you are, literally trained to be like Mr. Olympia and you're like looking like Ronnie Coleman, like at that point, yeah, you're probably too big, but you know, if you're like completely natural and you're just lifting, you're benching, like it's really not going to do too much. Just make sure you're staying lean and it's not
yep.
going to be a
That's
huge deal.
that's that's literally what I was about to say.
That's
Make sure your
that's
body
that should be the
that
last
make
point.
yeah
Yeah.
yeah make sure your body fat percentage is I would say
Under 10 at least or at
under yeah
best.
I would say probably 12 under 12 like you're gonna be pushing it if you're at that 12 range but I would say under 10 for sure
Yeah.
because again you still need to be lean to jump high
One
because
of the biggest
obviously
things.
all that excess weight is just going to obviously pull you down obviously there's some outliers
Nate Hobbs.
but yeah I mean even that
But
he's got a
he's
very
actually, yeah, his body fat percentage is probably
I was gonna
insane.
say like probably like a Zion Williamson. Like obviously he's got a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
of body fat, but but the reason why he's still able to jump high is because it goes back to the jump technique. He was jumping extremely high, and his jump technique was really good from high school and probably even middle school at that point. That when he put on more weight, he was still able to jump. Obviously, not as good as he was in high school, just because he put on more weight, but it is better. He's still able to jump that high just because he has that technique, he has that foundation. So um, but yeah,
Yeah.
make sure that your body fat percentage is is lower on the lower side, and then just get lean. I mean, obviously, there's times where you can go on bulk just to get your strength up, but regardless, you still want to be pretty lean for it. So
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think that wraps up this video, guys. Hope you found some value in it, especially if you're a young athlete. We'll be trying to do more of these filler episodes in the future because obviously it's a lot easier to schedule when it's just us two instead of like six people like our last episode. But obviously those are super fun and we plan to continue doing them. Again, we have a ton of people lined up for episodes. Just got to find times to get them on. So again, thank y'all for watching. If you're on YouTube, make sure to subscribe, leave a comment on what we should do more episodes like this. Again, we'll keep doing the interviews and all that. But if you guys have any topics that you want us to cover, make sure to let us know because these are a lot easier, less time consuming to do. So yeah, if you're on Spotify, leave a good review, and yeah, follow the Instagram, Dunk Talk Podcast. See you on the next one. Peace out.
See you.